Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host. He roams from town to town. He goes through life without a care. He's happy as a clown, and he has 2 fists of iron. He's going nowhere. Dr. Luke Gledall. That was a late change, I'll be honest, Luke, because that's from the song They Call Me the Wanderer. The Wanderer. The first verse is really quite sort of mean. I'm the type of guy who will never settle down. Where pretty girls are, you know that I'm around. I love them because to me they're all the same. I hug them and I squeeze them. They don't even know my name. So I didn't want to slander you in that way, but I still thought it was fun to lead in with.
No, it was.
So, full disclosure, we are immediately on the heels of the match versus West Brom. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing in the way of breaking hoo-hoos, but you might correct me.
Breaking hoo-hoos for this week?
Yeah, I don't think there's much.
I guess since we last did it, I guess Nuhiu played up front for Kosovo against England. That was something.
Sorry, yes.
But that's a very long time ago, breaking new hoo-hoos. And he seemed okay. He had a header at one point. I think he beat Tyrone Bones for a header. That happened. So there we go. That's all the breaking hoo-hoos. Adthe Nuhiu had a header against England. And
Palmer took part in a second win in a week for Scotland.
He did indeed.
Gave the ball away.
Did you manage to see player ratings that's...
I didn't see any mean player ratings, but he did kind of give the ball away during their goal because Scotland had to come from behind in that game. But he seemed to have a good game other than that. So
apart from having a hand in a goal,
yes, a bit negative.
The opposition scored.
Yeah.
Well, if that isn't some foreshadowing, I know if that isn't some foreshadowing for what happened today, then I don't know what is.
Shall we just get into it, Luke?
Oh, let's do this. I just want to say it's just I don't know. You know, it's felt a long time. This has felt one of the longest international breaks I think ever.
Yeah, the Swansea game sort of left an unfinished business kind of feel to things, didn't it? Because it was a reasonably good performance, but a frustrating result. So you kind of want to get on to the next one in those situations. So we went to table-topping West Bromwich Albion, who have 2 mascots, one sort of fat chicken and the other one an ice cube or a fridge. I couldn't work out which, but it was just a big white cube. Unfortunately, we didn't have the joy of them trying to look somber during a minute's silence, which is one of the great things of football, is mascots looking sad next to players during minute silences. So starting lineup wise, there was a couple of changes. We seemed to have dropped the 4-4-2 that we played against Swansea and went with just Fletcher up top on his own. Hutchinson came back in to replace Adthe Nuhiu, and then we also made the switch we put Burner back in alongside Iorfa at centre back, and Lee's dropped to the bench. Any initial thoughts on when you saw the team for the first time?
I quite liked it for a 4-3-3. It was one of the better ones. I was disappointed we didn't see Luongo, but it's been a long time since Luongo's played football for us.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see a reasoning to say, maybe he's just on the bench, maybe he's coming back into fitness. That was fine. Lee, Hutch, Bannon, that's a pretty good midfield three. Maybe I think in previous years for Hutch and Lee, it would have been a much more improved midfield three. But it was pretty good. Yeah, I was interested to see how Murphy was going to get on in the starting berth.
Exactly,
which in place of Reach.
Yeah, it means that Reach missed out again. I suppose that's probably the most. That was the most standout thing probably from the team that again Adam Reach hadn't made it into the squad. Well, into the starting 11. So it started off at an insane pace. The game.
We just got out the blocks exceptionally quickly. It was maybe with some of our attacking depending on how you want to read into this, we kind of came out the blocks like a DeLorean in Back to the Future. But maybe the joke of the DeLorean in Back to the Future, from what I understand, being of a certain age, but also not of a certain age to maybe get the joke fully, was that the DeLorean's also a piece of shit as a car. So maybe some of that attacking prowess kind of, maybe it was quite, we were out the blocks like a DeLorean.
Yeah, I think we rattled out. We had some good half chances. We did have a couple of warning shots because there was a good cross from the right-hand side for them prior to their goal. And I think there was another one where they almost got in behind and Iorfa was able to sort of shut the door on them on that occasion. But the next time they attacked with a sort of pass in behind, it was down the side of Burner and Fox, and those two are not blessed with Iorfa's pace, and it meant that Hal Robson-Kanu had a pretty straight run at the goalkeeper and very calmly slotted it between Kieran Westwood's legs.
Indeed, and it really felt harsh for the pace of the game. I think warning shots, I didn't really think any of them were particularly fantastic for West Brom. I mean, this is a funny thing up to that point, and probably from the rest of the game, I'd say there wasn't a great deal of incredible chances for West Brom.
No, I think that's fair enough.
They were very clinical and efficient with the chances they were given. It was, very much the opposite of watching Sheffield Wednesday, I would probably say.
Yeah. I thought... So I think just kind of, I mean, obviously that again is another promising start squandered, which unfortunately seems to be a bit of a theme. Because we had some really good chances, including another Burner being very, very close to scoring from a set piece that kind of ended up bobbling around in the box. I thought West Brom looked like a good team. I know what you're saying, that it wasn't like a constant goal threat, but I did think they had us chasing them quite often when they were coming forward. It looked to me like I don't know how they normally play, so it might be that they always do this, but they were almost looked like they were set up to try and use our kind of man-for-man defending against us, because there was a lot of the wingers staying very wide, and then Kanu coming out to join them on the wing, and then other players filling that gap in the middle. So you kind of ended up with one of our centre-backs and a full-back covering, and then we were relying on a combination of Hutch and a winger to try and tackle those players. It didn't produce huge amounts of chances because I think we were pretty scrupulous about doing the work, and I do think that was one of the things I noted from Murphy in particular. He did his job of work going backwards today, which you can't always say about him, but he was where he needed to be, and he was pretty sharp in the tackle a couple of times as well, shut things down pretty effectively. But yeah, I think other than that, by and large, we did look like the better team. The first 10 minutes was kind of wild, both teams really going for it and both teams leaving the back door open a little bit, and unfortunately we lost out in that tussle. They then spent the next sort of 10-15 minutes trying to take the fizz out of the game. I think a lot of passing around at the back
completely, and the early goal, I think, for any sense, definitely for that first half perspective, really took any pizzazz spectacle out of the game.
Took the spittoon straight out
of the game. Must have been when we were squandering our attacking chances, as Meatloaf, noted Sheffield Wednesday fan, has sang previously.
So we this midfield three, I thought first half I thought Fox looked like he was struggling a bit defensively. I think he got caught out a couple of times by Phillips, and I also thought that we didn't see much from Hutchinson or Kieran Lee, although they both managed to pick up yellow cards brilliantly. And again, Kieran Lee had a brush with, could have had a red card, because he already had a yellow. Did a really pointless, silly tackle on the byline, which another referee could have picked him up on. I noted about the 35-minute mark that the ref is a big fan of the ref, and he'll give a pen or a red. And funnily enough, sort of.
I think he saw that claim and he raised you a little bit as well.
He did. He said, "I'll show you," as he licked his finger and rubbed his nipples.
Do you have any other kind of great revelations or kind of observations about the first half? Because I can tell you some of my brilliant revelations and observations about the first half, if you like, Rich.
Okay. The one thing I think, the other note I've got left is that Kieran Lee had 2 really good chances in the first half and bottled them both.
Yes.
Including the most annoying one was the one where he sort of chipped up a little cross to their defender when he should have had a shot. So yeah, that was quite frustrating. The other one, he kind of tried to play for a foul when he was never going to get it. But so an agitating sort of first half in some ways. But yeah, I'd love to hear your takes, your observations.
I was kind of being facetious, basically saying that things were so dull that I was basically commenting on the fashion. Slaven Bilic is one of those Arsene Wenger human centipede kind of coats that kind of just bobbles on forever. I'm quite liking the look of Gary Monk in the 2019-2020 walkout kind of black top with the black crest. That's very nice. That is £55 at the Sheffield Wednesday store.
Oh, superb.
And I really like the away kit as well. It's especially for these games where we have a kind of anonymous first half. We really beautifully blend in with some nice luscious green pitches. So it's nice. I kind of watch it like I feel like I'm looking at a piece of art and I just need to stare at it for a few minutes to actually realize that there are some football players on the pitch. It kind of becomes a bit like a magic eye.
I was going to say, like a magic eye.
Yeah, so magic eyes are back, and then it's not elephants that you're seeing. Maybe it's some elephant turds. Sheffield Wednesday in the first half. But I guess everything really kind of felt very much like, just going back to the point you said about West Brom, they really controlled the pace of the game in that first half, and they took any kind of sting and momentum out. And I genuinely thought that, from my kind of observations, I genuinely thought that would just be the rest of the game.
Yeah.
That's the game. I thought, it's kind of a bit like, you get an Indian takeout, takeaway. Sorry, excuse my North Americanism there. And they give you the bag of salad, and it's really convenient because you can just put that straight in the bin. And you can just bypass any digestion. And, essentially that's what we kind of did. We just bypassed everything and just flushed the game away, to kind of go on a little bit with that analogy. So I was incredibly surprised from a kind of real know-nothing, kind of no-mark first half with that brief flurry of 10 minutes activity. A good goal for West Brom, I would say. It was a nice ball through.
It was.
I do hate Al Robson-Kanu with a passion. I really do. I don't know why. There's something about him I really, really dislike. I think it's looking on at a man who's played the game exceptionally well. The game being is that you go to a major tournament, you put in a really, really good performance, and then you get a nice bumper contract that you can just kind of coast out for the next, 3-4 years of your career. It was a good finish from him. I do wonder whether Westwood could have done a bit better. Maybe the sprinkling on that kind of turd cake was the... sorry. Always scatologically focused, different gravy. And but he did manage to meg Westwood in the process.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the thing is that you do make yourself big there, but I don't think the idea is to make yourself so big that you leave a gaping hole between your legs.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's harsh because he shouldn't be left exposed like that, and it's clearly a failure of the defence that we are caught so far up the pitch that we can't recover from it. But yeah, it's hard not to feel that perhaps he could have done a little bit better with it. The other thing I noted in the first half, and this was a real treat, I don't know, I mean, it might have been that you were sat with your face up against the screen trying to work out the magic eye at the time, but there was a moment where Iorfa grabbed a hold of the ball on the halfway line, did a Cruyff turn in very dangerous territory, but beat 8 men, probably about 5 of them that were West Brom players and 3 of them Sheffield Wednesday players. It was sumptuous. And then he played a great ball forward, went to join the attack. Sadly, it didn't come to anything. But it was just a really lovely little moment within a fairly drab first half. So we got to half time.
Mm-hmm. Another observation I want to quickly make as well, actually, is I don't know. I have a fair memory for some of the things we talk about on the podcast, Rich. I just want to kind of check back. Have we admitted that we aren't particularly good at corners yet?
Taking or
just everything? Just everything surrounding corners. Maybe I'm looking at this in attacking purpose.
We've not gone into it particularly.
I feel we flatter to deceive. I think that's the term.
Yeah, I like this new thing where we do this signal and it seems to mean every type of corner. Guys, we're going to do the old 2 hands on the head corner. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, we're going to play it short to Bannon and kind of ruin the chance. Oh, guys, we're going to do the old 2 hands on the head corner again. Oh, I'm going to hit it straight into the first man. Oh, tell you what, change it up again. 2 hands on the head again, guys. This one's going to be actually half decent, but you're surprised by that because the others have been rubbish. What a brilliant!
Yeah, hilariously, we actually hit a post from one of those.
Yeah.
It was a flat, curvy Bannon corner that just drifted onto the post.
Hit the foot of the post. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. What is the point in having a simple if you just do it every time?
I don't know. I thought it was really good. That looks like. I don't know. I felt the earlier of Monk that we'd look like we actually practice set pieces, but now I don't know if we do.
I know.
We're just pretending that we practiced in a way,
If this is the way that he lives his life, I think I could take him in a rock, paper, scissors contest. I just think he'd do paper every time. It's like, I'm going to really change it up. Paper. Okay, yeah. This time, paper has lost 6 times in a row. What should I do? Well, the thing they'll be least expecting is a bit of paper. Oh.
Speaking of rock, paper, scissors, I've been playing a lot of, there's a competition through a chain of convenience stores here in Canada. I'm not going to give them the time of day by talking about them, but you can probably figure it out. And you end up playing rock, paper, scissors against an NHL player, which can win you such great prizes as a bag of peanuts or a buy one, get one free Slurpee, which I don't really want to go down that route of having Slurpees in the cold. Even though apparently people from Winnipeg really enjoy that. That seems to be a very Winnipegian thing. However, but what I found is, though, I do often lead with the scissors. I pretty much just lead with scissors every time. And I think I lead with scissors every time I play rock, paper, scissors IRL with other people.
Yeah, I think it's a decent tactic. I think that's as good as any. I think statistically.
I think Monk probably leads with the rock because he's very defensive. I think that's what he would do. Fletcher would think about leading with the scissors, but then he just goes paper. Thinks about being offensive, but then isn't really anything. I think that's all our strikers, really.
That's it.
I think Jordan Rhodes thinks I should do scissors, but I don't feel very confident, so I'll just poop myself instead. So again.
Oh, right. Second half. Oh, I did a running joke because Chris Brunt was on the bench. So at half time, I said that the score was 1 and then in brackets 1-0 because I just felt like when Chris Brunt came on, we were guaranteed to concede again. That's another sort of running little thing that I did just to amuse myself, Luke. It was as you say, it was a pretty boring first half, and I've got to keep myself interested,
I also want to say it wasn't quite the first half, but a comment I made to Rich at half time, we decided to keep it dry of any kind of commentary before going into this fresher than the game that was as stale as anything was. However, one of the things I enjoyed was coming out for the second half. The iFollow camera was on the sidelines. I saw Bullen come out and goalkeeping coach Nicky Weaver, and then he managed to spit out some chewing gum and volley it onto the pitch. And that was the best thing about the first half, I think, or my viewing experience up until then. Maybe including the halftime rights-free techno music, which kind of reminds me of I think as I was saying to Rich, a preview for a smutty channel. That was kind of like the sound bed for that thing. So that's kind of where we were at. Yeah. And the fashion that I mentioned as well, the nice green luscious pictures. Maybe it's just a kind of color therapy exercise, me watching Wednesday away these days.
Yeah, I think to be fair to West Brom, good. Looked like a good crowd. Made a lot of noise. Seems like a good ground to go watch football in, which you can't say that often in the old football league. To be honest, a lot of teams that get about 10 people and their dog. A lot of lifeless, soulless bowls of stadiums. So yeah, well done West Brom on that front. Second half, we rattled out the blocks. Started very brightly.
Yeah. I thought we had a lot more kind of verve, a lot more pizzazz. It was looking good.
I love that you're focused on the pizzazz, like a cheap Vegas magician. We brought the razzmatazz in the second half.
Yeah, I think so. There's a bit of showpiece, a bit of showmanship. Why not?
And following that magic trick line.
I mean, it should be entertainment, right?
That's ostensibly what we watch for.
The question we ask ourselves from a viewing experience, and also while we do this podcast as well.
But yeah, following that sort of magic trick line, Kieran Lee sort of looked behind Higazi's ear and found a penalty.
It wasn't a haggard 50p piece.
No.
That Uncle Kieran Lee found behind Higazi's ear.
No, not a slightly waxy, questionable 50p piece that's been in someone's ear. No, it was a lovely, shiny penalty. And I think, sort of echoing the thoughts of everybody watching and listening, one of the commentators was insisting that the referee just give us a goal and we not have to take the penalty, because we are a team that when we get a penalty, it is not a guarantee that we are going to score that goal.
Exactly. And that's generally what I thought was in the script. I don't know. I feel this maybe happened a few times, but, it's usually more you can see the penalty, you can't watch it because you fear what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That it's going to go in. But I, from an attacking sense, didn't feel I could watch it because I felt that Fletcher would fluff it, or whoever would stand up for it. We're not particularly, in recent memory, we're not very convincing at penalties. I must say. And
Fletcher himself is very much at the core of that. He's missed a good number of penalties.
Yes, Matt Letizia, he ain't at penalties.
Yes. But this one, put it down the middle. The keeper dived. We're 1-0 up. Oh, no, we're not 1-0 up. It's 1-1. And in brackets, it's 1-1-1. Yeah, if you're following the Brunt score. Then we did our usual thing and completely lost our heads. We went crazy for...
Yeah, it's miraculous that when we've restored some kind of parity to the game, or kind of look like, then we just absolutely look to just throw it away completely. Probably with, we had far more kind of grasp on the game and calmness when we were behind.
It's so strange. You look at West Brom, it was like a switch. They went from attacking threat to managing, controlling the game when they scored that first goal. It was like, night and day. And we also are like a switch in that we looked like a good football team, and then we looked like a bunch of idiots immediately after scoring a goal. It's so strange. And obviously there's a change of emphasis from West Brom. They're playing more on a front foot. They're conscious they now need to go and try and get a goal. So there's a shift in their way they play. But it is not fully accounted for. It's also us playing badly that creates all these opportunities for the opposition. It's definitely a combination of the two, and I think it weighs more heavily on us than anything that they are actually doing to put pressure on us. So yeah, we almost instantly conceded an equaliser, but then we did calm down a bit. Fox rattled the bar with a volley on the 65th minute. And what was nice at 1-1 was we were clearly trying to push on and win the game. There wasn't any question of us sitting in and trying to hold, which I said was nice, but scary.
I mean, at the time, I genuinely felt maybe kind of knowing when to run before we walk, and then maybe that kind of approach that Monk has come in and said, look, we'll work on defensive shape before we look to establish our kind of attacking credentials in the team. Part of me wondered whether from the recent stuff, whether we should just relax and actually just settle for a point.
Well, that's like I say, I was quite pleased that we kept pushing, but I was also conscious that that was a slightly scary decision to be making as well.
Yeah, because
By
I
and
know that
large,
there was the talk about whether we should look to bring on. I was really happy with the two subs.
yes.
I thought maybe Harris was a little bit unlucky to be the one that's missing out. But mind you, Murphy was doing very well up to that point, so I could kind of see that one from Reach. Lee was the one that, like, yeah, he wasn't there today, and the fact that basically he was lucky to be on the pitch before the fact that he won as a penalty, just
Yes.
out of absolute nowhere. There's actually some good work that Kieran Lee did in getting that decision, and
Definitely, yeah. So it was a lot of veteran savvy to.
we got a lot of juice out of the Kieran Lee berry today,
Yeah.
so it was definitely the point to kind of bring him off, and Luongo was definitely the choice. So I was really happy with those two substitutes. The one thing I really did miss was who did Nuhiu come on for?
Hutchinson.
Right. Okay. So at that point, because that was the thing, was I was thinking in terms of the commentary team. Rob O'Neill and John Pearson were talking about, should you bring Nuhiu on? And I'm like, I wanted Nuhiu on, but I didn't know who was the logical.
Yeah.
And I genuinely thought we can't sacrifice a winger or anyone that kind of front free. You don't want to do like for like with Fletcher. You need someone up top with Fletcher. One of my other comments I think that was missing from the first half was we did great for the width, but we also kind of lost out there wasn't anybody who was kind of close to Fletcher for the flick-ons.
Yeah, there's a few times he did pretty well in his tussle with a formidable man mountain in Bartley, and looked around very frustrated that despite the fact he'd sort of knackered himself out making something happen, nobody had taken the chance in behind. I thought I was a bit questionable of the change for Harris for Reach, because I thought Harris was having a really good, particularly first half. I think maybe he did go a bit quiet second half, but first half that was one of the things I was really pleased by, is that he looked like he was sort of back to something like the sort of shining form he was in at the start of the season. He really looked a headache for his fullback, and was very unlucky that fullback was very unlucky not to get a yellow card in the incident when bizarrely Harris's shirt fouled him by being a bit sharp and a bit rough on his hand. So yeah, I thought it was a little bit harsh, but then Reach immediately, I think he made like 4 or 5 tackles really quickly and won the ball quite high up the pitch and looked to be making things happen. I think again he is out of sorts in that he's not taking those big moments. So his cross, he had a chance with a cross that wasn't particularly good. He had a volley, which granted was on his right foot, but again was nowhere near. So it's for a player who's largely built his Wednesday success on shining in those big important moments. He's those seem to be the ones that are eluding him. Even though I think he's working. He's putting himself about. He's trying to make things happen. But he probably had 2 chances to shoot and a couple of chances to cross, and didn't really do anything particular with either of them. I agree. Luongo, good substitution for Kieran Lee, and a timely one. And he looked really good again. I almost would have liked to see him a little bit earlier with how bright and comfortable on the ball he is. So Fletcher had an off effort that was ruled out for being handball or offside or something. It wasn't really clear.
They were saying handball, but I thought he was clearly offside.
I thought he looked a good way offside, didn't he?
He looked a long distance offside. A great cross and a lovely little control down to kind of get on the swivel, and he hit it well. Maybe not quite clinical enough, but the power and pace he hit it with was pretty fantastic.
Not quite clinical enough could be the name of his autobiography. Then West Brom made a couple of changes, which initially I thought it was quite an attacking change. They brought on Barry for Higazi, the centre-back, but all that meant was that their defensive midfielder, whose name eludes me...
was it Ajayi?
Yeah, Jai dropped into centre back after that, and so they kept their same formation. And Charlie Austin went up front for Robson Kanu.
Charlie Austin with his strange bleached haircut.
Yes,
I think he's trying to look like. I think he's trying to look like Aguero. I think is the commentary, but I think he just looks like he was auditioning for a reboot of Trainspotting.
I was thinking, I was trying to think of a gag somewhere along the lines of, like the Austin Allegro car, the Austin Aguero, the new model for 2019, 2020.
By the way of 1979.
By the way, 1979, yeah. Rob on the commentary became obsessed with people being ball players.
Yes, he did. He's
Gareth
a lot
Barry,
of that.
he used to be a ball player, didn't he? When he first came out, he was a ball player, and then he said the same thing about Brunt. He used to be a ball player. Now sometimes he plays left back. I don't know what a ball player is. Aren't they all ball players? And
I think he's means someone who kind of strokes it around. I mean, I kind of see what he's getting
Barry's
at.
whole career is.
I thought Gareth Barry was more just like a defensive mid for most of his career.
He'd take free kicks. He passes the ball very nicely. He played some lovely little inside passes today. I don't think he ever stopped being a ball player.
And I would typically think Chris Brunt has just been more of a winger, basically.
He started out, Luke, as a ball player. Can you believe it? Sorry. It was a weird little thing. Again, we've got to keep ourselves interested. We've got to keep our head in the game.
I know. Yes, exactly.
Then Austin hit the post at 87, which was a big let-off.
Yes, well, I basically said 86, wow, how are we not losing? And then 87, well, guess we are now,
So we didn't... Initially, we didn't see that incident, did we? Because we were on the the replay of the hitting the post.
Yes, which seems to often be a big I follow theme, is that there's quite a few things I miss because we're too busy showing the replay from the previous stuff.
There's nobody in charge to the point to kind of break off the replay in time to show the...
Yes, there's no like VT editor kind of, I guess, as you'd kind of have. So that's probably why it's suffering. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like Radio Sheffield, isn't it? Sheffield Wednesday standing over, Stephen Fletcher's standing over the penalty. So we're going to go round the grounds. That's just the I follow equivalent.
What's happening at Millmore? Well, nothing. Sorry, the New York Stadium.
I'm going to speak directly into my tiny microphone, and you won't be able to hear me very well. But I will talk for 10 minutes about what's going on here at Millmore.
We go live to a clone of Adam Oxley. Adam Oxley, number 4, is at Doncaster away at Plymouth. Yeah.
And they always seem to have some really old man reporter as well on radio. Yeah.
So, it did take, but then it takes... But don't worry, because if there's something we miss and it's big, we can just go back and watch the highlights of the next one. We can just go watch, like, the replay of that one.
That's what we did.
The next thing happens.
Well, we never live life and
we can see... Yeah, we can see... It's kind of like a big kind of flash score delay,
Yeah, it's the Turtles all the way down of I follow coverage.
It's the what? Sorry,
Turtles all the way down. There's
Turtles all the way down. What does that mean?
The universe is built on the back of a turtle, and there's like, so what's the turtle on? Oh, it's Turtles all the way down. I don't know what book it's from. It's but yeah. Anyway,
nice.
So what? So from your reading of the,
I think this is pretty much the thing.
Ball flicked over the top.
We can talk about
stood offside, and Liam Palmer is just looking at Charlie Austin with his hand in the air, whilst the tricky little Diangana, is that how we say his name?
Is it Dean Garner?
Dean Garner. No, he was a pain in the backside all game, by the way. Anyway, so he sort of ran through, and Westwood kind of punched him in the dick. He got nowhere near.
I think he did just punch him right in the Johnson.
It's one of those where obviously Liam has made a mistake.
Right. Should we look at this in this kind of a JFK blow by blow account?
Please do.
So
Luke Gledall, the Oliver Stone of different gravy.
So there was that kind of. I can't remember if it was quite a good a good ball in, or whether it was it felt a little bit speculative from the ball in, the West Brom kind of humped over the top. He humped it over, and then there was a bounce. Palmer put his hand in the air. So was the hand in the air, was he trying to appeal for an offside?
Austin was miles offside, so he was just holding his hand up saying, oh, he's offside, and trying to ignore the ball. But he missed the fact that the player that he'd been marking all game was running through from an onside position and figured out too late to do anything about it.
In a kind of back to the basics approach, in a certain level of maybe if I did my FA badges, and I don't know if you'd actually have to do a kind of Viva or a PhD presentation. If I had to do a research piece, it would basically be from ages watching Sheffield Wednesday, and also kind of expand this to other clubs as well, Rich. But basically my defense would be about defenses and basically saying defenders aren't as clever as they think they are.
Yes.
So much of this, I'm just leaving it. Oh, he's got it, and it's it works less than it does work. So.
I hope that my thesis isn't back to back with yours at the Viva panel, because they might get a bit bored. Because my thesis would be the whistle and how to play to it. I'll look into the creation of the whistle, different P density.
As I work in the field of learning and development, I hope there is a really belabored and beleaguered, not greatly needed introduction into the world of, well, where does the whistle come from? Dinosaurs used to whistle.
The magic moment when the ball bearing was introduced.
Just kind of bring us back to present day.
Yes.
And this moment, which was just over an hour ago from now when we're recording.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't see why. Yeah, I didn't know what Liam Palmer was playing at. So that's the first error. The second error is, so we've had this miscommunication between a right back and Kieran Westwood before. Mm-hmm. Was it the Ipswich game? No, sorry, we didn't play Ipswich. It felt like we should have been playing Ipswich because it was that anonymous.
It's always Ipswich, isn't it?
It's always Ipswich. Who was it? Who were we playing near the beginning of the season?
I know who you... Well, the Reading one resulted in the red card for Westwood, but him and Odebajo had time and time again of one of them expecting the other one to do something else and not doing it.
I feel it's a consistently poorly communicated making of a duet of Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. That there's no cohesive communication between the two in the verses, and trading off, and the chorus is time after time. This is just what happens with Kieran Westwood and whoever's playing right back. Just the level of miscommunication is staggering. So, I mean, the first thing is, it is a real mistake from Liam Palmer.
It is. It's an indefensible mistake. There's no two ways about that.
So that's the first thing you do that prevents it. That's the first level. In this, the defense has made an error. Who's then going to back it up? It's the keeper.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's just a general modus operandi, the things that we've recently talked about, but the one who I really want to kind of question in this, it's an error from Liam Palmer. What Kieran Westwood did again is inexcusable.
There's just no reason. Yeah.
Why does he feel the need to rush to get the ball in situations where I don't think it's maybe that kind of, maybe is seriously a disconnect in, and I feel this because I'm someone who's of a similar age to Kieran Westwood, albeit I'm not an athlete at all. I am sheerly the opposite of athlete. But like the other day, I decided that I would run 600 meters to try and make a bus from a kind of connection. And it absolutely ruined me, Rich. So I felt like I was a man who had more human will than my body would back it up with.
Yeah.
And I feel the same thing for Kieran Westwood. I don't know if he feels that these things that maybe he could do if he was younger or had a touch more pace, or I don't know what the disconnect is, but there's no reason for him to charge out and try and get the ball.
No.
In that situation, I would rather him take his chances, which I think would be lesser, trying to just kind of close down the angle, make a save, or kind of prevent the options for Garner from what he does with getting that ball, rushing in with the ball, because he's going to rush there. He's going to take a touch. He's got a few touches going at pace to kind of control and setting himself before he pulls the trigger with either making a shot or playing it in the box for Austin, whoever else is there for West Brom attacking that.
By the time he's controlled it, he's probably at the byline because it's up around nipple height, moving fairly quickly. So yeah, by the time it reaches his feet, he's not in a shooting position anymore unless he does something incredible.
So I just want to laugh against that. I just say the ball's at nipple height. Yet
it's a classic measurement.
Yeah, Westwood just gives him a little jab in his penis, right?
Yeah. He went low. He went to the body.
Bit of a ball slap from Kieran Westwood.
Ball slap. He don't take crap.
Oh, it's just so I'm staggered. I'm really staggered.
That's the thing.
By the decision making from both. But I genuinely, I've seen this before from Westwood. We've seen this before this season, and it just is another. I can't remember times when he's rushed out and he's been a hero.
No, but there's also the miscommunication is another trait now, because the last game against Swansea we conceded from a corner that didn't need to happen because, again, his fullback didn't do what he was either telling him to do or he wasn't telling him to do it, and he felt he had to make the decision to put the ball out under no pressure. And so again, that's both fullbacks you're not communicating properly with. That's a pretty tricky situation to be in. But yeah, I think that's the thing is Liam Palmer's mistake is bad, but it's not terminal. It does not need to turn into a penalty. I just have no idea what Westwood thought he was going to achieve with what he did. He must have just thought, all is lost, but it's not. To think that all is lost in that situation is panicking, which you don't expect from a guy who is, he's our most experienced pro.
It should be the quality he has in spades at this point in his career, really.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a hilarious thing. We have one of the oldest starting 11s in the league, and yet we're just losing it. We're just absolutely just panicking all the time. It's just these situations, just these late games where you think that we should have the experience and the nows to really see things out and show some gamesmanship.
Yeah.
And yet key figures are just, they're like, it's not quite clutching defeat from the jaws of victory, but it's just kind of clutching defeat from the jaws of just, we should be okay. I don't know what to say, like neutrality. It's negative playmaking at its finest.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't think there's rest we can really talk about because that was pretty much at the death. That was the 88th minute.
Well, the other thing
I didn't even properly watch the penalty. Was it a well taken penalty from Austin?
It was a very good penalty from Austin. Yeah, sort of hit the side netting sort of one. So no, there was no saving it. The other thing again. This is my last point on this, but not only does Westwood make the compounding mistake, he then is bent at the waist shouting at Palmer for his part in it. This is another trait. Again, he's made so many mistakes and it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
When he goes up into the crowd of players, gets nowhere near the ball, he's shouting at people round him. It's his fault that happened.
Yeah.
And I don't, you can't put yourself, but I'm sure it contributed to the fact that Palmer was so het up that he went for those two big, horrible challenges. I'm sure a big part of it is he's annoyed at himself, but also being, torn down by, as we say, the most experienced pro on the pitch that's going to have an effect as well. So he's not having a calming fatherly influence on this fairly young defence in front of him. He's acting like a spoilt teenager that can do no wrong, even when he keeps doing wrong.
Yeah, and still in our situation, still gets the starting berth as a reward for such failures.
It's always his fault, but it's never his fault. And that is a tough situation to be in when you're one of the other players relying on him to do his job. Yeah, basically nothing much else happened. We brought on Adthe for Hutchinson. He tried to sort of Adthe it a couple of times, kind of lumber his way across the pitch and make things happen.
What's on the stats, Rich? What percentage of Adtheing did you think was successful? Successful Adtheing?
I think he's about 50% in his Adthe rate today.
How does that rank to his previous Adtheing percentage?
On average, I mean, when he's in, there's a marked difference. When he's in form, he works at about a 75-80%.
That's good. That's a good Adtheing percentage.
Very much his whole game is built off just how well he can Adthe, because when he's in a poorer run of form, he might be Adtheing just 10 or 12% of the time.
I'm looking forward to this new. You're a man with a very great reading of the game, and I'm also now very pleased that you're moving into this world of statistics, Rich. I'm looking forward to the OptaRich Twitter account, where it'll be like 85 percentage of Adtheing that Adthe Nuhiu did today. Adthe.
Every single time Adthe Nuhiu has Adthe'd at a rate of 80% plus, we've won this season.
That's what you're gonna do. You've got to look at those percentages. You've got to get those metrics up, right?
Exactly. So then Palmer launched himself. The only sort of significant thing that happened is Palmer launched himself into a pretty horrible tackle. I'm not sure it was a bad tackle, but I don't know if it's a straight red. What did you think of that, or had you turned away in disgust at that point?
I mean, I was watching, but it was still kind of with disgust, really. So my lenses were disgusted coloured. I'm
just wondering how it looked in the magic eye.
It didn't look good. It didn't look a good challenge. I don't think it. Yeah. I don't know. I think at this point you just get to the point of, especially as a Wednesday fan, you get to a level of self-flagellation.
Yeah.
You have the tools of which to hurt yourself out, so it doesn't really matter at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just looking for anything to be tools to which to whip myself, basically, with.
So it means next game Odebajo's going to get a chance.
How long ban do you think that would be? Do you think that would be a free? I was thinking, was this going to be a free match ban, or?
I can't think it'll be. It was. I think it was a bad tackle, but I don't think it was violent conduct. I think it'll just be the one match ban. That would be my guess. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, as I say, it means Odebajo gets the chance to play against Birmingham midweek. So, just looking at the performance as a whole, I just put my sort of final notes at the end of the game. We're just gutted, absolutely gutted. Arguably deserved a win away against top of the league West Brom. We haven't beaten West Brom in a good number of years. They've generally been a team far and above us in terms of the players and quality that they have, and to not even come away with a draw is really devastating, and it's all our own fault, which is even worse. Silly nonsense.
So, I feel that's all we can really say about the game. And let's go on to the bit, everybody, that I love the most, which is rating players.
Everybody that's me. Everybody that's Luke loves rating players. Okay, Kieran Westwood.
I'm going to give him a 3 today. I actually was about to give him a 4. Then I'm like, no, I want to make a point. And I thought about 2. I'm like, oh, that's too harsh. Let's give him a 3. I feel he could have done better with the first goal.
Yeah.
I think he maybe could have got a little bit of something on it, despite the fact that it was a really good goal from West Brom's perspective. His kicking wasn't particularly good. And those 2 sentences were pretty much the notes I was reading before he just dropped an absolute major bollock and just threw this game away. And we're in the heat of the moment. We're doing this very close to the review of the game.
Yeah.
I would genuinely want to drop him. I would actually tell him to take a holiday for 3 weeks.
It is getting to the point where it's like, if he is not dropped now, when does it happen? I think I'm not a huge Dawson advocate, but
no,
I think he's he can't be worse than Westwood is right now.
No.
And it's not like we are being peppered. It's not like he's producing. I mean, we've had in other games the little caveat of, oh, well, he produced a good save or he did that. Today, he really did contribute nothing positive in the whole game. I think he made one half-decent save, but it's the sort of save that I'd expect literally any professional goalkeeper to make. So when you're just left with the mistakes, then I think give somebody else a try. I mean, literally, what's the worst that can happen now? From what we've seen of Dawson, I don't think he'll be worse. And he might be a good bit better. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know if we're almost coming into this world of, that time we talked about before with like the Paul Heffernan kind of situation. It's almost like we're just pining for any other option. And I really hate that I'm saying this about Kieran Westwood. I hate that I'm being as negative and as knee-jerk as I am. I want to do this podcast and I want to have these conversations that we have every week, Rich, and have like a degree of positivity. But I'm done. I'm absolutely done with Kieran Westwood right now. There needs to be a lot of... I don't know if there's any capacity for him for someone so confident in his own abilities and confident in who he is, I don't know if he's got the capacity as a person from what I've seen to admit he's made a mistake and to apologise.
No, that is the thing, isn't it? Yeah. I do think goalkeeper's one of those positions with it, a bit even more so than striker. You're kind of your own man, even though you're in the team. You're almost playing an individual sport. And I do think with individual sport, one of the things that marks that out is you do need to have that ultimate belief. And if something's gone terribly wrong, you almost need to tell yourself it's somebody else or something that can be worked on. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's any... There should be soul-searching moments, and at the moment it doesn't feel like they are happening. And if they are happening, there's no response, no noticeable response. So it just needs to change. We just can't have this. This is now a succession of games where our own nonsense. With three games in a row where Westwood has been wholly or partially at fault for us losing points.
Yeah,
that's enough. That's enough games. Let's try something new. And as you say, even if the result is actually by Christmas Westwood's back in there, well, he'll be a renewed.
He should be, this is the benefit of squad football and any rotation. I feel like I said this previously for Odebajo when he was going through a bad spell. I'm like, just take him out of the 16, take him out of the matchday squad picture. Because sometimes I wonder how much you need to just go off and just think about things and have those moments of reflection. That's very much my personality, and that's something I'm very big on. I don't see, but it just feels harsh. Like it was the thing with Rhodes. I feel like Rhodes needs to go off and, in a really shitty and harsh way, needs to consider what he brings to the table and what his talents are.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as harsh for Kieran Westwood, but Kieran Westwood needs to think about those instances and what he did. There's a lot of things he has to consider. There's a lot of errors he's made.
And maybe you can't do that when you're in this rhythm of a game on a Saturday and a Tuesday. Maybe there's just not the time to do that kind of...
But I mean, also on the flip side of this, Rich, is that we've come out the back of a final international break of the season. Of the year, of the calendar year. So... Yeah.
This should have been the time to take those.
This should have been the time. And I don't know what happens on the training ground. I don't know what's said in the dressing room. We don't have that insight, as fans, obviously. But I really expected from the previous mistakes that one or two of those things would be kind of held in contention and thought about and talked about by the coaching staff, by Nicky Weaver, by Gary Monk, however that kind of filters down to the sessions with the player. It feels, I don't know if they've had that conversation. I don't know if things are going right on the training ground and it's not being translated to the pitch. I don't know, but it feels like everybody's gone in on Monday or Tuesday, whenever they've been back from the previous games, to be like, it's business as usual. Yeah. And it isn't business as usual. No. Not at this stage.
Shouldn't be,
no.
Well, I mean, that is the change that we don't know about, because obviously we had Jordan's dad. His first name's escaping me.
Andy Rhodes.
Andy Rhodes as the goalkeeping coach for many, many years. And that is a change that's happened in the summer as Nicky Weaver's come in. Is it that those two don't get on? Is it that Weaver prefers a different style of goalkeeping? I don't know what it is. I don't really even care what the reasons are, because the long and short of it is what is happening now is not good enough. I don't care why, really. As a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I just know it's never been this bad. It now is this bad. So if it's Westwood failing, if it's Westwood getting in his head about things, if it's poor coaching, if it's a poor relationship with the coach, whatever it is, I don't really care. I just want a better choice of goalkeeper, because the guy who's in the sticks now is not doing the job he's supposed to do well enough. And the only other alternative, I mean, we had a tweet from a listener, Mark Etches, that we did forget to talk about Wildsmith. I mean, Wildsmith's back training. I think by and large, the consensus opinion seems to be that Dawson is the better prospect of the two, but they're neck and neck. Wildsmith was favoured before Dawson sort of got into the team.
Wildsmith was the Carl Norton to Dawson's Carl Walker.
Yes,
he's really clumsy. He was the one who I think at one point. By that I say.
I know exactly what
both named Kyle, actually.
The two Kyles.
Actually, two Kyles. But he's the one that I think people thought was going to be the better prospect of the two.
Yeah.
And actually, Dawson was the one who's established himself, the younger one who's established himself as a better option. But I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen Joe Wildsmith play.
Yeah.
I remember at the time, but that was a long time ago, that he wasn't up to snuff.
But we've got two choices there. And I suppose what I'm saying is let's give Dawson a go. I think he's earned the opportunity. He's not let us down when he's had to play this season so far. And, but even if that doesn't work, we can either go back to Westwood, or we do have the option of Wildsmith as another person to try.
Which then we also had the crazy option of talking about
Weaver registering himself as a player. No? Okay.
Well, it was just the fact that we had the Dawson era against Cardiff.
Yes.
Which actually then we said we pine for the attributes of Westwood.
You're right. You are right.
I don't know if it's just a consistent rotation policy that we'll have. So a rotation policy for ourselves as fantasy football managers, picking the lineup, or whether there'll always be qualities that we will miss until we can get the Munkenstein's cloning abilities, or maybe we could do the Fly type situation where we just splice. We're trying to transport Kieran Westwood. Cameron Dawson gets in the transportation chamber with Westwood, and then we now have a Westwood Dawson monster, which hopefully the best qualities are both going to come out in this new monstrosity mutant keeper that we develop. But I don't know if we're always just going to. Maybe this is just the fact that none of the keepers are exceptionally good enough.
But then, I would say that Dawson era. I would say there's grading within the sort of crimes.
Completely.
And Dawson's era of not quite standing his ground as vociferously as he could is is far back from.
You think that's
turning into a kind of killing spree from Westwood? It's.
I was going to say Dawson has flicked somebody in the earlobe.
Yes.
And Westwood has actually performed grievous bodily harm.
Exactly. It's like there's several grades worse of what Westwood has done in these last 3 games. He's perpetrating quite the rap sheet for himself. We should get on to another player, I think. But yeah, I'd like to see that change. Maybe it doesn't happen Wednesday because it's so short order, but the sooner the better, really, for me.
Yeah.
We've got Birmingham on Wednesday, and then Charlton on Saturday. So there's 2 options this week to maybe change things up. So right back, Liam Palmer. I guess he's going to get to 10.
I would half that mark and give him a 5.
Yeah. Sorry.
The rest of the game, I thought he was fine. I thought he was all right.
I thought attacking-wise, actually, second half, he was really busy. He seemed to combine quite nicely with Murphy a few times. to the point where Murphy started to oddly rely on. He's just looking for Palmer all the time. But I thought he was doing a good job of it, and bear in mind he's somebody who's been active during the break, so one mental slip in 90 minutes might be understandable when you're one of the only players that's played another 2 sets of 90 minutes during the international break, whereas all the rest have had a lovely break. I think I'd maybe go to a 6, but then the red card is a bit of silliness, and he did play a big part in the goal. It's not it's not nothing what he did there. Okay, Iorfa.
7.5 I give to Iorfa. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for him that
yeah
he's put in a performance like he has, and he's been part of a team that's conceded 2 goals today. It's not right.
I actually think Burner was slightly looked a bit shaky at times today, and Iorfa sort of grew to fill the spaces.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a particularly good game, Iorfa. And yeah, as you say, a real shame that he's on the losing side, because he didn't deserve to be. I think 7.5 is a good score for him. Jim, so then Burner, the aforementioned.
Maybe a 6.5.
Yeah.
I think
even a shaky Burner is a pretty good Burner.
I think so. I definitely think so.
There was just a couple of moments, particularly early on, where I was reminded that actually the last thing he did in a Wednesday shirt was kind of fluff his lines at that clearance that played a big part in the Blackburn winner. So I think it felt a little bit like that might have been playing on his mind early doors, but I think he grew into the game and got better as the game went on. Morgan, I'm trying to think.
Fox Morgan.
Captain Fox Morgan.
Captain Fox Morgan. I didn't see much of him today. I can't remember much of him playing and being on the pitch, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I thought he looked a bit wobbly, a bit shaky. I thought Phillips was a lot for him today. Their 2 wingers were really tricky, and I think Palmer kind of had his and then started to struggle against him, and Fox struggled early doors and got better against his. But I think it's fair enough. I thought he put in some crosses. They were so short that people needed to flick them on to make them worthwhile. But still, he was, he got up and tried. He did hit the bar as well with a pretty nice effort from a set piece. So that could have been a different story as well if he'd got his second goal in short order. That would have been pretty impressive. So yeah, I think fairly anonymous. We'll take ourselves out to the right wing, do you think? Or do you go Hutch next?
Let's do the midfield 3, I think. So Hutch. Yeah. I didn't do many ratings, I think, for the actual midfield 3, apart from Kieran Lee.
I don't think Hutch did. I don't think he
No, I don't really see what he really brought to the occasion today.
Apart from another pointless yellow card.
To add to his list of yellow cards.
To his wonderful collection. I just don't know why. It's like he gets bored after an hour and has to do something. The bloodlust raises in him and he has to go like Jason or something like that. He has to purge.
Yes, 8 yellow cards so far.
It's insane. But the one today was just so pointless.
Yeah.
He literally just kicked up. I mean, he did it twice. He was just determined to get a yellow card. I wonder if he bets on himself. He's the ultimate winner in the Hutch Bingo.
The Hutch Bingo is, yeah.
He marks his card and he knows exactly when he's going to get the yellow.
Oh.
But yeah, I thought that 3 for me never really worked. I thought we didn't really get much of anybody. Apart from the part he played in the goal, Kieran Lee was really, really quiet and didn't do very much. Bannon had some moments, but again, didn't particularly shine a huge amount. And Hutchinson did barely anything, apart from just go deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, he was sweeper half the time when we had the ball. So do we give Hutch a score? Sorry, I missed that. 6?
6? Yeah.
So then we kind of touched on the other 2. We might as well cover them. Kieran Lee?
Kieran Lee, I've stretched to a 7 for Kieran Lee purely for him winning a penalty.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
outside of that, he was pretty weak, and I wasn't particularly. I think he's had one or two worse games this season, but he has had a few better games. Yeah, he wasn't doing very well in that middle of the park. I'll be honest.
He's replaced when Luongo comes on. It feels like Kieran Lee 2.0 at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that Kieran Lee hasn't been a great player for us, but Kieran Lee now, Luongo just feels like he does all the things that Kieran Lee does, but does them better.
Yes.
With more of a goal threat. So him staying fit is a huge thing for us because Luongo just looks... He's got so much to him. It was really nice when he came on. There was a bit of a sad moment with Kieran Lee as well. There was a ball that was kind of like flung down the wing for him, and he well and truly lost his leg race with the centre-back. And you just like, you could see that little wistful look in his eye almost. It's like, I would have had that before. It was like he was running backwards. Then Barry Bannon?
One of the much lesser Bannon games, I must say. 6.5, perhaps?
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think like between the three of them, Lee gets the plaudits because we don't score without Kieran Lee. Hutch was anonymous, so gets the most anonymous looking score. And Bannon did a bit, but not very much. So yeah, he sits in the middle of the two of them. I think that's absolutely fair. So that takes us out to the wingers.
Murphy, I've gone for a 7.5. Verve, confidence and drive, looking a fair bit better. I thought it was a really good performance from him. Just more of this, please. Just more of that. And I think with probably the ball in different areas, I think he'll, really do some damage in future games. Yeah,
he was a bit less... He sort of carried a goal threat all the time against Swansea, and maybe he was just up against a better fullback. But... He didn't feel quite as dangerous as he did against Swansea, but still, I thought he had a really good game, and actually looked particularly good when he moved out to the left. I do wonder whether Reach and Murphy might be a combination we try at some point, because I thought Murphy looked really good when he went out there, which I was surprised by. I wasn't quite sure when the decision was made. And then Kadeem Harris.
Oh, Kadeem Harris, maybe a 6.5?
Yeah, I think probably like a 7 in the first half and a 6 in the second kind of thing. So, leveling up at 6.
Yeah, that's very true. He was very good in the first half. He was definitely a lot more kind of Kadeem Harris-like than I think recent times. I don't know what the difference was, but definitely wasn't kind of double marked on or, doubled up on. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And then Stephen Fletcher.
Stephen Fletcher, I don't know how to mark Stephen Fletcher. 6.5? It was fairly kind of average, really. It wasn't terrible. It could have been better.
I think just the fairly consistent frustration of this season is that we're so reliant on Stephen Fletcher for all of his good things and bad things. Because, I think by and large he again did pretty well at the target man elements, especially against a pretty tricky couple of centre-backs. I mean, Higazi, if you remember, was getting linked with... He nearly went to Liverpool when Van Dijk went there. He was really highly thought of at one point. It's all kind of gone off the boil for him a little bit now. But Higazi and Bartley are quite a twosome to play up against as a lone frontman. And I think he did make a lot out of the limited chances he had. But he just doesn't have an eye for a goal, a mind for a goal. His getting in the box is like his second or third thought. And that just means we don't get as many chances as we should, and then when we make chances, he doesn't take as many chances as he should. So it's just an inherent, a sort of inbuilt frustration that it's just gonna happen again and again, because we don't have anybody that's as good at him as good as him at everything else. So whilst we play the style that we're playing, we're very reliant on what Fletcher can give us each week.
Yeah.
And today wasn't a hugely bountiful match for him. I did have a little thought in the first half. When he went down, rolling around, hitting the floor in pain. He does that every single... It's like Fletcher is always injured, but he's never injured until he's injured. Substitutes, Adam Reach came on at the 60th minute.
Let's give him a 6.5. He definitely looked like he was a little bit more up for it and did some good stuff. He had that shot where, he took it on his wrong foot, which is his right foot.
Yeah.
And that was maybe a little bit disappointing, but I enjoyed seeing him come on. I always love seeing Adam Reach. So
he did well getting the ball back in their half. I thought that was a marked sort of the time when the reason we had a good period after he came on, by and large, was that we started stepping up and winning the ball in their third of the pitch, which meant that all of our attacks were starting from a very sort of elevated base. Luongo came on 10 minutes later in the 70th minute.
Should we go for a 6.5 for Longo as well? I don't think there was any huge kind of substitutes kind of performances today.
No. Again, he did there was a moment where there was 3 players surrounding him and he sort of did a Cruyff turn and a little pivot and came out with the ball, which was really nice to see. But he didn't get a chance to make much happen. He had one shot, but it was very tame. He would have had half a chance if he'd taken it on the volley, but he waited for it to come down and therefore ended up with a bit of a P-roller, which was easy for Johnson to deal with. Is it even worth talking about Adthe?
I think we might as well, just for the sake of it. Let's give Nuhiu a 6.
For completionist.
In his short moments, don't think it was the occasion for him to come on. Unfortunately, it was a bit too late for him to come on. And I don't know if I really would have made the substitution anyway but it was speculative at that point. We were just trying to get something out of it, right? I wouldn't have done it prior to the moment of conceding. And then after conceding, sure, but there's not enough time left,
I think we were probably hoping to mount a 90 plus minutes of just hoofing it long and trying to put them under pressure. It didn't quite happen, but I think that was probably the game plan, was just bombard them and hope they crack. But we didn't get to mount any sort of attacking pressure after he came on. Mm-hmm. So there we go. Really frustrating. So the 2 games coming up, just to do a little bit of a preview before we let folks get back to their day-to-day lives, including us. So we've got Birmingham midweek at home, and then we've got Charlton next weekend away from home. 2 more winnable games?
I think so, but I really don't know in this aspect of what Wednesday look like right now.
Mm.
Like, I don't know, I was looking at I was just looking at the Gary Monk kind of post-match thoughts. He's a football manager. He'll talk a big game. He'll talk up the work that we do. Granted, it wasn't terrible. There were quite a few positives today. There's never quite enough attacking conviction to ever score more goals to win games. We got our goal from complete fortune today. It was incredibly fortuitous. But then there's the question, if what the question always going to be right now for Wednesday for the past kind of 4 or 5 games. What could we have done if we'd kept that kind of defensive steel about us?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're ever going to do enough to kind of counter these errors, which I can't see finishing. The problem is we can't see finishing because when seemingly, I hope midweek that we take this period to leave Westwood out and we bring Dawson in. I don't think it's going to happen. I fear that we're going to keep sticking with Westwood, and I can't see us stopping leaking goals.
Yeah. Which means we need to score more at the other end to
which we're not particularly good at. We're not good at, outside of that real rarity at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. It's not regularly going to happen.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I think we've had a tough run, because I think we said that before the last international break. We were coming back to a tough run, weren't we? And we probably did less well than we would have hoped. Today could have easily been a draw against a top of the table team. We drew against Swansea, who were second when we played them. We drew against Leeds, and that was a very good game. And obviously we got the only one win we got was against Stoke. Today is, we're straight after the match. There's no sort of, the wound is still fresh, but today is hugely frustrating, and it makes the last run of games look bad altogether. Those 6 games from the start of the last or the end of the last international break. Because you could be looking at that, if we'd drawn 0-1 today, you could be looking at that and going, well, 6 games where we've only lost once, we've got 1 win or 2 wins or whatever, 3 wins. But it's hard to, we're putting lipstick on a pig at this stage because it's been a bad run. The last 3 games have been bad results and mostly at our own hand. So we'll see. A week's a long time in football, to borrow another adage. So we've got Birmingham and Charlton. I do think they're the 2 of the sort of games that we'd hope to win.
I just don't know right now. I would feel usually. I just don't feel. I don't feel any great level of confidence in this team right now. Yeah.
There's so many cliches in football, but if we play like we did today against those 2 teams, we'll beat those 2 teams.
But I think the problem is, again, so here's the situation. We play well, we perform well against the top teams, even though I guess a lot of our wins have been against teams in the bottom. But historically, this Wednesday team does pull up good performances against the top performers, and then sometimes against some of the middling lesser teams doesn't quite do it. We may get better results. I don't think we'll get better performances. I don't think we will. I'm pretty confident that we're not going to do much in these next 2 games. I think we'll lose against Charlton. I'd like to see us win against Birmingham, but actually, I think we might beat Birmingham. We might just somehow kind of edge it. I think it might be Gary Monk against his whole team. I think he might get them riled up for that one. But there's a real chance that I think there's also a chance that Birmingham will be up for it a lot as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Because that's his... they're still managed by his old assistant manager, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Could be quite the tussle. Well, I think we're going to beat Charlton 3-0 and Morgan Fox is going to score a perfect hat-trick. So
I would love that as well. I would love
It's coming, I think.
Right, left and header from Fox Morgan.
Captain Fox Morgan that's what he's going to turn the season around for us. Right. On that very silly note, we should wrap things up, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a delight to talk to you again, Luke. You always lift my spirits.
Do I? I wonder whether, much like I'm not making a pure analogy for how I do with these podcasts, Rich, but I wonder if also maybe just watching Wednesday, I also get the same level of late game management where I don't have the commitment and professionalism to say anything interesting at the end of it. So I apologize to all the listeners. I apologize to myself, and I apologize to you, Rich, as well.
You're seeing it out. You're dawdling and passing around at the back, just hoping to see out the last few minutes.
Exactly.
We'll say cheerio.
Have a good week, Rich.
This has been Different Gravy.
It has. We didn't mention, so did you know it was Kieran Lee's 200th appearance for Wednesday?
Oh, no.
And did you also know, bizarrely, it's the 250th appearance for Adthe Nuhiu?
Wow.
That's insane, isn't it?